record and Spotify. Just 2 seconds of it. Okay, Satan's gonna get us. Hell's bells. The critic is a lot like Satan, actually. Okay, here we go. Hi. Hi. Hi, sweet humans.
Hello, Amy.
Hi. Good to see you all. Let me just pull up my notes. So I'm recording, and that means that if your video is on, that you may be viewed, especially if you speak. And I want to say it's a brave thing to come to the Inner Critic workshop because you're admitting, like the rest of us, that you have an inner critic, because everyone does. And it's a great service. I can't tell you, I did this workshop back in January, and I think almost 200 people watched the video. And so many people get in touch with me and get so much out of even just watching it on YouTube. So those of us who are here and show up and participate, we kind of are the food for those people. So those people, thank you a lot. Those people in the future are so grateful for you guys being here, and I am too. All right. Now, I already was kind of trying to talk over the music, saying that you're going to need some art supplies, at the very minimum, paper and pen. But the more the better. So like start pulling your curtains down, pull stuff out of the garbage, get some old orange wrapper, orange peels or whatever you have around. If you have a chance to grab some stuff, if you haven't done that yet, anything works. Anything works as a craft supply. The way that I like to do this is free-for-all style. The first time I did it, I had somebody in the group who couldn't really chat very easily. She couldn't read, and she felt overwhelmed by what was happening in the chat. So I just said, just bring your voice in. If you want to come in, just come on in, just crash in, just override your critic right away and just bring your voice on in, unless you're comfortable chatting, and then that's totally fine. But yeah, we're here to be to be radical today and to start using our muscles with awareness of the critic. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce. Well, first of all, the goal for today, I have one goal and it's very simple, and that's that you guys create a representation of your critic. 2D, like I said, is okay, but 3D is amazing. And even if it's the most ridiculous little thing, that's what I want you to walk away with, is a little icon, a little talisman, a little representation of your critic. Now, the thing you make probably won't look exactly like your critic, because you probably don't know exactly what your critic actually really looks like. They're kind of amorphous. Oh, somebody wants to say something. Alex, can you not hear? Is everything okay? Or are you just saying hi? Oh, hi. Hi, Alex. Okay, just bring your voice in if you want to. Okay, I keep waiting for Alex to say something.
Sorry about that. I was
Amy,
having trouble with my
just
speaker.
just go on. Alex
you.
is not going to say anything. Oh, there you go. Do you want to say something?
Oh, just saying hello to everyone. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late, but good to see you all.
Great to see you too. I want to introduce you first to my little critic that I made. And here he is. I think he's a he, and I call him Tsar Fuzzy Mouth. I have some Russian ancestry, and I'm pretty sure that the strongest critic in my line comes from my Russian side, a very masculine side. Anyway, here's Tsar Fuzzy Mouth, and I gave him a lot of fuzz coming out of his mouth because he's not very articulate, it turns out. He's just fuzzy in the mouth. And then, let me just really quickly share. This wasn't really planned, but I at the last minute made let me see if I could get it, a gallery of some of the critics from the first workshop, and I just want to share them because they're kind of cool. So here we have Ward. He's a hand puppet, and his name is Ward because he's a warden of my friend's mind and soul and life, like he's got the key. Right here is Rootsy, and originally she got her name because she was my friend. Actually, to get her material, she just went for a walk and just picked up some stuff and then made Rootsy. She had no supplies on hand, and Rootsy was originally named because she was rude, but then she was actually the rudeness got transformed into rooting. She was rooting for my friend. And so instead of being rude, she was rooting. And then over here we have what is a Lieutenant Thornheart. And he was done via the YouTube video. And he's another one of my good friends, critics, very pokey and thorny, but yet protected.
I'm doing a
Anyway,
craft project of my inner critic. Would you
show
like to be one
those
of your?
because they can come in all shapes and sizes. Nima, my partner over here, was supposed to be on his own screen. Will you show your critic just really briefly?
Yeah.
Nima's critic,
This guy's Red.
his name is Red.
Red is pretty pokey as well, and he's always mad at me, and he's telling me the things that keep me down.
Yeah, he's got some Post-its
Yeah.
on him. So we'll be kind of doing that later, is coming up with the things that the critic says to us. Do you want to say anything else about Red?
It's really helped to externalize this, and when I'm going through a hard time, I look at Red and tell him to get out of here.
Yeah, often we say, where the fuck is Red? When Nima starts going like in his head and you can tell that he's in an inner critic, then we have to go and actually get Red and physically bring him into the conversation. So we're often doing that. Nima's got a pretty strong critic.
Yeah.
Czar Fuzzy Mouth, he's kind of a little bit of a joke, not really, not that formidable of an opponent. So let me see here. Sorry, Nima was supposed to be my right-hand person
But my computer.
doing all the tech stuff, but now I'm doing it. Okay,
I'm sorry.
introducing myself. My name is Amy Palatnik. I'm a process work therapist and facilitator. I am also a realization process meditation teacher and a NIA pleasure-based movement teacher. And what else? I do a couple other things, but that's all. I'm an author, yeah. And but I have a deep mandate / desire to help people with their inner critics. I just feel like if I could give one gift to humanity, if I could offer one thing to all of you and everybody else, it would be freedom from the inner critic, or at least mellowing out of the inner critic. And so I have a version of myself that's a superhero I like to tell people about, where when you're on an airplane and you're above the clouds, I imagine myself up there above the clouds, and I've got this huge sword, and I'm wielding it and doing battle against the cultural inner critic. And I also made a representation of that part of myself, and there's my really big sword.
Oh, cool.
So I like doing silly little craft projects. You can tell I'm not the best artist, even though I'm a professional potter. I am a professional artist, but not this kind of thing. So anyway, you don't have to be good at crafts to make cool things that change your life. Okay, so what I have found with working with the inner critic, what I really believe is that it's tangled up inside of us and we confuse it for ourselves. We confuse the inner critic for ourselves. We think we are the critic. And so the best way to work with it is to tease it out and separate it out so it's outside of ourselves instead of inside of ourselves. And that is just the simple little thing that we're going to be doing today by making this representation, is that we don't have it log jammed up with our sensitive parts. We don't have a critic and a sensitive part all in there, kind of indistinguishable. Oh, great. Nima got in finally. So yes, so that's what we're going to be doing today. We want to just bring it out, because what it does, the place where it does all of its harm is in the darkness, in the shadows where we can't see it. It's largely a silent, unconscious process. And so our work here is to make it conscious, to bring it out of the shadows, to see the little thing for what it is, and start dialoguing with it and changing the relationship with it. So to start off, let's all make our meanest face that we can come up with. We're going to do a couple different things to try to bring this critic out of the shadows. So let's all practice right here, right now. You can use your claws. You can drool a little if you want. Look at those. Those are good. Nice, nice. Okay, great. And now, as best as you can, on a piece of paper, on half of the paper, one side of the paper, draw a mean face. I had some time to prepare, so I already did mine. And I'm not very good at drawing, says Czar Fuzzy Mouth, but I agree, we're not very good at drawing. We know that. And so I decided to do it ahead of time. So drawing a mean face on one side of a piece of paper. All right. It's good to growl while you draw too. Just translating that meanness into form. First step, get it on paper. Make a mean face. I see you, critic, I see you. Okay, and hi, Brenda. Hi. Okay, it looks like everybody's working really hard at this. Don't worry. No perfectionism here.
That's your grade.
Although it's good to like the thing. I want to say that with these craft projects, even though they're not like amazing or super artistic, unless you're really good at these things, it's fun to keep going until you kind of like it. I think it's important to kind of keep going until you kind of like it. And if you really just don't like it, you can start over too. Oh, is that Timo here? Yeah. Hi, Timo. Hi, good to see you. Great. Okay. I'm gonna make Nima a co-host so I can stop multitasking. Okay, great. Okay, moving right along.
Can I see your face again?
Mine that I made? Yeah. So downward tipped eyebrows. That's the main part. Downward and not a smile. A moon that goes down. Even if it looks kind of like a sad face with those downward tipped eyebrows, it looks mean. Okay. So this is the way it's going to go today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the inner critic. What the heck is the inner critic? Then I'm going to ask you some questions and have you do some journaling about your own inner critic. Then we'll go into the magical sculpting phase where you'll be making your thing out of craft supplies. We'll do a little bit of breakout room stuff here and there, just to get some of it out and bring your voice in. And then we get to have the brawl where I get to bring the AC/DC back in and we'll have the critics go at each other. Now that's one of the most fun things you could actually do is have critics criticizing each other. We can even rename ourselves in our little chat windows and, okay. Oh, sorry, I just got a message. And so that's my plan, is that we'll rename ourselves as our critics, because we're going to give our critics a name, like mine is Czar Fuzzy Mouth. You'll give your critic a name, and then we'll have them fight. See who's the meanest critic in the house. I wonder, look around, who do you think is going to have the meanest critic in the house? Can we tell by looking at people? It's hard to tell, huh? Hard to tell. They're sneaky. All right. So the way that I like to teach is I like to invite people to take care of their bodies as I talk. So feel free to stretch, to move, to breathe, and really kind of prioritize yourself over what I'm saying. And just trust that the information will come through and there will be a recording if you need it. So if you miss anything, and then also you can just bring your voice in and say, Amy, I spaced out. What did you say? And I'll be totally happy to repeat myself. One thing that I really like this concept is that if you have a question, it's probably not only you that has the question. Somebody else in the group probably also has the question, and that person will be very grateful that you asked your question. Okay. So, what the heck is the inner critic? First of all, I like to call it internalized instead of inner critic, because I really believe that it's not innate in us. It's not our nature. It's not really part of us. It is intentional for Czar Fuzzy Mouth to have a soft sound. Oh, is it intentional? I'm just going to pause and read. My critic is pretty severe, definitely not soft. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know if you saw Timo before, but I showed one that was Lieutenant Thornhart, definitely not soft. And I have a pretty good relationship with my critic, and my critic has been much more of a cheerleader slash coach for a while. So yeah, mine is kind of silly and not as mean, but here's Nima's red. He's totally mean, you know. This is
It's pretty hurtful.
This is a really mean critic right here.
pretty
Yeah,
hurtful.
yeah. So there's all kinds. They come in all shapes and sizes, turns out. I wanted Nima to build his critic like life-size, bigger than a human, you know? I just thought that would be really great, some huge red spike in the room. But this cocking thing worked pretty well. Okay, I'm gonna move along here. So it's an internalized voice. We actually take it in, usually when we're pretty young in our formative years, and it's a voice that puts us down, it's mean to us, it creates a really bad mood, a bad atmosphere. It keeps us from being kind and gentle and loving to ourselves. It definitely blocks pleasure. It creates anxiety and fear and shame. It's universal. There are people who have studied the inner critic, and they've traveled around the world and find that it's not just from the United States, it's really in all cultures. I'm not sure that tribal cultures would have it, or Aboriginal cultures, but in the developed world, at least, let's say, it's ubiquitous. Everybody's got this weird critic thing going on. The critic does, I said this before, but it does its damage in the shadows. It does its damage where we can't see it, where we're unconscious of it, when it's in the background and it's in our blind spot. When we bring the critic into the light, it actually loses a lot of its power. And that's why I want you to make your critics, because I want your critic to lose power. I want you to get your power back. So a good friend of mine once said, naming it changes it. And that's kind of the same thing. Making it changes it. You know, as soon as we see it for what it is, all of a sudden the relationship changes. And the biggest problem with critics is that we're not in relationship with them. They exist and we exist, and they keep doing their thing, but we don't usually talk back to it. We don't usually engage the critic. We don't usually challenge it. We just kind of, you know, and we start believing it. We really get hypnotized by the critic, and we do believe it, and we confuse ourselves with the critic. So once we bring the critic into relationship with us, then we can do this magical thing of harnessing its power. It's inside us, so it's kind of part of us, even if we've taken it in, but it definitely is an inside job happening in here. So if that power is happening against us, we can kind of Aikido it through relationship, through dialogue, and get that critic actually working for us. So the best version of a critic is a coach. You know, critical thinking is important. It's not like we want to get rid of all criticism or all critical thinking. We just want to not be chewing on our paws and not be hurting ourselves and putting ourselves down, because that's really good for nobody. You know, and I really like to think in terms of ecology. Is it good for me? Is it good for others? Is it good for the world? The critic, none of those. You know, left unchecked in its mean form, the critic is not good for myself, for others, or for the world. This is like a way outdated program. It's really time to change it. So moving towards a more ecological relationship with the critic. So what we need to do is understand what the heck is going on here. Why do we all have it? And what can we do about it? I like to think of the critic as a parasite that's in our blind spot. It's kind of like back there, and it kind of slooped on at some point. And, a parasite basically uses you as the host for its own life force, right? That's what a parasite does, right? So, and we confuse ourselves with it. We think that we are the critic. We really believe that we are the critic. And that makes sense because the critic has power and nobody wants to be the powerless one. So the powerless part of ourselves kind of gets shoved over into a corner. And then we really identify more with the critic. And you can see that in the language we use. I once saw a mug that said, "I hate myself." So I hate myself. Or I'm mad at myself, I don't like myself, I'm so frustrated with myself. I, the critic, don't like myself. I don't like myself. I, the critic, I am the critic, right? I'm the one who doesn't like. I don't like myself. So here's the missing piece. This is a big piece of the whole puzzle is, who is myself? Who is this one that we don't like? Who is the one who we're frustrated with? Who is the one that we're putting down? Who is getting criticized? So just for yourself for a moment here, get a little sense, see if you can get a little sense of who myself is. Who is the one that the critic is criticizing? And that's who we're going to draw on the other side of the piece of paper. This is I for internalized critic. And over here, we're going to draw myself. I don't like myself. Does that make sense to everyone, this concept? Yeah? Great. If not, just go ahead and ask questions.
So we're supposed to be drawing ourselves on the other side.
The part that the critic is criticizing, exactly, myself. Yeah, I'm kind of separating this out just to think of this. A part of me is criticizing and a part of me is criticized. The part that's criticizing was actually imported and is this kind of virus or parasite that's kind of controlling some of my thinking. And there's this lesser known part of me that's getting hammered all the time. So drawing that part that gets criticized.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question, Brenda. Okay, so I see some people kind of looking up a little bit. Doesn't have to be a great sketch. I drew something like a little stick figure with a smiley face. All right. So I want to say that the critic is not our essence. It's not even really human, but myself very much is our essence. It really is who we are. And we get so far from myself when we're running the critic all the time. We just lose contact with myself. And so I really want us to reform our contact. Before I was looking out, I was looking at the ocean and just wondering, what's the purpose of this workshop? And I saw all the sunlight scintillating on the ocean, and I just thought about essence and people's true essence and magic, the sparkly light. And just, wow, it's amazing how easily we can get blocked from our magical essences, by this zeitgeist thought form of the critic, how it can keep us from really appreciating the beauty of who we really are, of our essences. So now I'm going to ask you, where do you think the critic lives in your body? And you might just get a somatic response. I told you where I think it lives. But wherever you think it lives, just go ahead and put a hand right there on your body, wherever you think the critic lives. Where does it seem to exist in your body? Yeah. Somewhere over here. Yeah, on the head. And then where do you think myself lives? Maybe your body's going to respond and tell you, where is myself? And you can just intuitively put a hand wherever you feel like myself lives. And we're just beginning now to create relationship here in the body between these two parts. So just take a breath here and just create relationship between these two places, between these two parts. Let them feel each other. Find a bridge with your breath. And I don't know about you guys, but in between my critic and myself is my throat. And that's where I feel like the log jam tends to happen in humans, is we get stuck, not being able to speak our truth, not being able to stand for ourselves. We get shut down in our throats or maybe in our hearts. So that's the part we want to free up. And just a little hack is just to see if you can make contact with the internal space of your neck. See if you can feel yourself inside your neck. Most of us are just, the critic keeps us up here. We're all head, no body, the body's down there somewhere, and we can't feel it because we're stuck. We're all log jammed up with this criticism that we're not allowed to rebut. Is that right? Rebuttal, yeah, rebut. Okay. So what we want to do is get it out of this blind spot and get our throat chakra moving, get the log jam teased out so we can communicate. When it's unknown, we're in a state of anxiety, but when these things become more known, then change can happen. Okay, now we enter the journaling part of our program. So you'll need that piece of paper. You can maybe write on the back of your little drawing. We'll be doing some more things on the drawing. But the first thing you want to do is draw a couple of speech bubbles coming out of your critic's head or mouth or whatever. A couple speech bubbles. And let's see, what is this critic actually saying? What are the main couple of things that this critic says to you over and over and over? And just write them in each of the thought bubbles. And if you want to make a couple more, you can do that. Okay. And as you do this, we're going to use you language. It's talking to myself. You are this, you're not this, you're to this, you're not that enough. You. So we really want to be transforming our language with the critic instead of I I blank myself, I don't like myself, I'm stupid, I'm whatever, and say, you, let that critic accuse you. And I know that I can be kind of playful about this, but I also know it's very painful. And so I just feel like I want to wrap everybody up in a big hug as we do this. Because it's really awful. It's pretty much like the worst thing in the world. And everybody's got it, everybody. Okay, so what you're going to do is just pick the worst or the most common one or the one that feels the most foundational and just give it a little star or a little highlight. And ask yourself, how old do you think you were when you first heard that criticism? Just take a guess. First guess, best guess. And if you want, you can write an age on some of the different, the different ones might come in at different ages. I have several at about 5. And is there a memory that's actually connected with this message? And if so, you can just make a note or two about it. My mom yelled at me, I was all alone, whatever it was. I got bullied at school. Or maybe it was just in the fabric of your family and there isn't something specific, which is fine too. Okay. Just noticing when people are looking down or looking up, trying to not rush anybody. So we're going to work with the one that you starred, the one that feels the worst or the meanest or the most common, working with one of these criticisms. Ask the critic, as myself, imagine myself over here on the other side asking the critic, what do you mean by that? What do you mean when you say, mine is that I like to work with is, you are squandering your potential. That's the main one, but there's lots of other ones too, but you're squandering your potential. What does it mean when it says that? So we're going for the deeper message of the critic here. What's the deeper message? And if I were to ask Czar Fuzzy Mouth about that, he might say something like, you've got some incredible capacity and you're too disorganized and you don't use it all and you need help. So he's talking about my gifts. He wants me to be using my gifts. So it's kind of a positive wish for me, even though he's mean to me about it, right? He puts me down for not using my gifts, but he's not saying that I'm useless or anything. He's just saying that I'm squandering my potential. We're talking about my potential. No, that was 20, actually, Timo. That was a good question. No, the other ones that I'm not working on, which is like, you're not as smart as you think you are, and people aren't going to like you. Those were from 5 years old. They kind of evolved into the potential one. I didn't know what squandering meant when I was 5. So, okay. Is everybody still with me here? Yeah? Okay, good. So going for the critic's deeper message. And And then my question for you is, how do you feel about that deeper message? Do you agree with the critic? How does myself feel? Not when it gets criticized, not about the delivery and the meanness, but just the message. How does the critic feel? I mean, how does myself feel about that, the criticism? Like, I agree with my critic. Yes, I want to totally live into my potential. I really do. But the way that the critic talks to me and puts me down makes it harder for me to do that, right? So it's tricky that it's saying that it wants me to succeed, and yet it's pushing me down. And so this is where we can get the upper hand on the critic, because critics tend to be unexamined. So if the wish of the critic for you is benevolent, the deeper desire, the deeper message is actually like that, like mine is, which is it's for you. It knows how amazing you are, and it's just putting you down for not reaching it, for not being your amazing self. Then you need to talk to your inner critic about its what we call in process work meta skills, about the way that it delivers the information, the way that it talks to you. Because what this winds up being is an abusive relationship. It winds up being internal abuse. And if it's unchecked, it's just going to keep abusing us. So we myself need some help. We need to stand for myself, and we need to intervene and let the critic know, I want that too. I want that too. I agree with you. I want that too. Okay. Mm. Okay, so that's great, Nadja. So the critic is criticizing your body, right? So in that case, I would tell the critic how it feels. How does it feel for the critic to say that to you? Or you might ask it, why do you care what the shape of my body is? To get underneath it. There might be something underneath that. Why do you care what my body looks like? Who are you to judge my body? Just reading that, Nadja, I just have to say it just hurts so much, you know? I feel my jaw getting tighter, and I'm getting angry, you know? I get angry that anybody would ever speak to anybody that way, you know? And that we internalize that. It's just so painful.
That's reinforced this society, you know.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So dialogue is helpful. Telling the critic how that feels for you to receive the message, and then see, what does the critic say next? Do they keep pushing you down? What do they really want for you? What do they really want? Why is it slinging that insult at you? What does it want for you? You know, a lot of people, there's like a deeper fear or belief.
There's another comment.
right, exactly. To be accepted by others. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I want you to be loved. I want you to be lovable. I want you to be. So sometimes there's like a deeper belief or a fear underneath that I won't be loved. I won't be accepted. You know, I'm not safe in this world. Right. So when we start talking to the critic about it, if that's really what they want for you to be accepted, to be loved, then we have an interesting conversation going on, because we could say, I want that too. I also don't feel lovable, or I also don't feel safe in this world. I'm just putting words in here, Naja. I don't know if you want to come in and talk about it, but I'm just using like assumptions basically now. Can't seem to unmute. I think you are unmuted. Oh no. There we go. No, can't hear you. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. The critic has you silenced. But I think that, you know, in that case, we just need to go further. It needs to be a dialogue. You need to ask it what it wants. You need to tell it how you feel. You need to ask it for its help. You know, like the problem with the critic is that it's hurtful. And if it wants us to be accepted, to be loved, etc., you know, if it were a kind of a quote unquote good parent or good coach, it could be more loving with the same message, right? It could be more loving to say, I want you to feel lovable. I want you to feel loved. You know, if that's what's underneath. Okay. So telling the critic, so we have to then, what I want to say is that the critic goes in when we're young as an early program. The critic tends to get absorbed in as this program, as though we are a computer and we download a program, right? We just take it in. Based on something that happens, usually. We all of a sudden get this kind of whoa about the world. I'm not safe here. People don't like me. I'm not likable. I'm not lovable, whatever the thing is. And we take it in, and then we start running that program. And instead of, you know, then it becomes, I'm not likable. People don't like me. I'm not safe. People don't like my body. I'm not acceptable. Whatever that tape is that we play. And that tape tends to continue unchecked and unchanged. So it's like downloading a program when we're young on an old computer and then never updating the program. You know how programs like software updates come around really regularly? You have to update the software. So this is an old program that never changes until we get the dialogue going. And the mean voice is something that we take in from society because people can be very mean to each other. And often I think that we do it in a way to temper ourselves, or if maybe there's some kind of psychological belief that if I hurt myself, then it won't hurt so bad when it comes in from the outside. I'm not sure exactly what it is, you know, why we do this. It feels like a very strange and unnecessary and unhelpful pattern that we do. But I think I said it already, the great potential of the critic is as a coach. And usually I'll say that if we keep going with the inquiry of the critic, usually we get to a wish for us, that the critic actually wants something positive for us. And that's the place where we have a little bit of leeway and ability to work and to coach the critic to be our coach. Tell it how we like to be talked to. If you want that for me, I want that too, but it would really help if you could say it to me in a different way, you know, and maybe give it some new language. Okay. So I'm gonna make some breakout rooms here, if I can figure that out. And what I'd like you to do is go into the breakout room and share with your breakout room partner what the mean thing that it says, the program that you chose, and then what you think the deeper message might be. And we'll take 5 minutes for that. Does that sound good? Is everybody okay? Did I lose everybody? It's like working with the critic is like, what's going on? Everybody gets a little freaked out. Okay, well, over time it gets easier, I have to say. So let's see, how many participants do we have? Can we see? James, can you help me?
We have 19 participants.
19.
I'm in
So,
there.
okay. So I'll make 9 breakout rooms. Okay. Here you go, 5 minutes. So I'll call you back at 6:26 Pacific time. Okay. You're with Alex.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hi, Alex. Ooh. Hello.
Recording. Okay. Okay. Ooh.
Feedback. Oh, what's going on?
Okay, great. Okay. So people coming back. And oh yes, of course, Nadja, you can leave and come back. Yeah. Breakout rooms are confidential. They're not
Totally.
recorded. I paused the recording and the only thing that would have gotten recorded is the main room. So yeah, definitely.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. How's it going so far?
This is
Starting to
great.
massage it out, starting to get a sense of the critic and its message. And okay, great. Let me go back to my notes over here. And okay. Oh, so now we go into our crafting time. So you'll get your craft supplies around you. And then what I'd like you to do is before you just start going for it, to start by relaxing your neck. The log jam, we got to soften up the log jam. Yeah, wave the spine. You can make noise if you want. Soften your neck and get a little bit dreamy. And as you do this, think of that thing that the critic says to you, that mean thing that the critic says. And let it be real mean for the moment. And feel its power, its intensity. And see if you can catch maybe the look on its face. What look would it have on its face? Remember before we all made those mean faces? Arr! Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's like, it might look like somebody you know, actually. Which, a lot of us model, our inner critics are modeled after somebody that we know or some kind of typical figure. What would the look on its face be like? What posture would it be in? What gesture might it be making? And in this slightly altered state of the soft neck, then you're going to just start looking at these supplies that you have, whatever you happen to have around, and just let yourself be drawn to whatever supplies you have that kind of remind you of this critic. And like I said, it's not really going to look really like your critic, but maybe it will somehow eventually. What I'd like you to do is just to start building your critic Just put something together. And if you don't like it, first of all, is anybody completely freaked out by this part of the class or workshop? Some people are just like, please don't make me do crafts. Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to give you the extra hug for that one. And just to say, you can always remake it. So whatever you make today might just be the beginnings, and you might realize, oh, I need some hardware for this guy, or I need some cotton balls or whatever that you don't have right now. But for now, you're just going to do the best you can with what you have. And you can always make another version of it later. And just to say, I would love to have pictures of your critics for my gallery, the Critic Hall of Fame. All right. So as you're sculpting and staying in this dreamy state and making this little thing look as mean, it's kind of like mean / cute, right? maybe Timo's isn't, but you, like I said, you kind of want to like it a little bit as you make it. You kind of want to somehow like something about it. Yeah, good, Brenda. Totally. Yeah, you should. You're too. Whatever. That's great. So just because you have finger pointing, maybe you're going to highlight and make something that looks like a finger pointing coming out of a head with one big finger or something. However you want to do it. Okay. So, and as you're doing your sculptures, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about critics. Oh, just stay kind of dreamy in this kind of like, I don't care too much. What we want to do is put the critic to the side as we make the critic. We don't want to be criticized too much as we're trying to make this critic. They can really stop up the process. I want to say in the first Pleasure Bootcamp, so this class is a prerequisite for Pleasure Bootcamp. And so everybody who does Pleasure Bootcamp, which is a 1 month long training, has to do this first. And in the first Pleasure Bootcamp, there were a couple people who were like falling through the cracks a little bit, and they didn't seem to really be getting it, the whole pleasure thing. And each of those people, when I checked in with them, each of them had not made their critic. And I was like, well, of course you can't experience pleasure if you didn't make your critic. You've got to make your critic. It's the only way to really start inviting pleasure in, is to get that critic out of you. Otherwise, they'll just sabotage it every time. So just to say again, the critic is not us. It's not a part of our essence. It's not a part of our nature. It's internalized. We invite it in, and then we have to figure out how to work with it. I don't think any animals have this kind of shame and self-criticism. It's uniquely human. And it's a learned behavior. It's a manipulation, based on power. And people having power over each other through putting each other down.
Or parents.
Or religion.
Control.
Yeah, I really feel like the main problem is Judeo-Christian concept of sin, that we could be bad people. When nobody is born a bad person.
Yeah.
These things are learned. We learn about, we just model other people pushing each other down or pushing us down.
We got it.
And even if we don't identify as religious people, it's in the walls, it's in the environment. This sin, shame thing is everywhere. And we just absorb it, unfortunately. I think I said this before, but the critic mostly just says the same thing over and over and over again, and it's pretty shallow. It's not usually very well thought out, and yet we cower from it and And we believe it because we over-identify with it and think that it's us. We think that we don't like ourselves. That is not the case. This program that we imported, that we downloaded, has us feeling like there's something wrong with us. So just by, let me see what this says. Okay, Laurel, thanks for coming. You can watch the video for the
I will.
brawl.
Thank you. It was very nice. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So if this were a real relationship and it was outside of yourself, it was actually a person. Somebody saying something? No?
Conversation.
We would want the critic to know how we felt about it. We would want somebody else in our life, if they were being abusive to us, we would want to speak back to them. We would want to let them know how it felt, the way that they treated us. At least I hope we would. I hope we have those skills. It's very strange that we don't learn communication in school, that we're not taught conflict and communication when it's so basic. We have the problem internally and we have the problem interpersonally. The founder of process work, Arnold Mindell, has said that humans spend 85% of their vital energy in a silent and semi-conscious battle with the inner critic. That 85% of our energy goes to this kind of attack defend complex that's happening inside that we all feel so alone with. And yet it's every person, it's ubiquitous. So if we were to have an eagle-eye view and look down at humanity, each person would be running this little battle inside. Each person would be attack defending, suffering from putting themselves down. And then I'm going to ask you a question. If your critic could go away on a 1-month rehab vacation, vacay, what would be the perfect retreat for your critic? What would be the most healing, the most transformational thing your critic could do? And you might draw a little picture or write a little something nearby on that first piece of paper, just to remember that. And I think it's really nice to kind of like create a little representation or something that represents that for your critic to sit on or near. Because what's going to happen is that you're going to need to this thing that you've made, where's my czar, needs to stay in your view, needs to stay with you or close by, so you can begin to retrain your thinking. Every time you catch yourself in that little internal thing where you seem to be putting yourself down, we want to, instead of I'm not good at, I'm too, whatever, we want to look at the critic. That's the only thing you really need to do, is look at the critic. And the rest will kind of happen by itself. But it's basically getting it out of our heads and saying, and changing the language to you, let the critic say, you're not blah, 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 blah enough. What did I had one before that I was going to share with everybody. Anyway, I can't remember. You never remember anything. You should have written it down. It doesn't matter. So you're going to name your critic. We're going to do a little show and tell. We're getting towards the end of our time here. It goes by so fast. And I'm going to put you back in breakout rooms for a moment. I know that some people have left, so I might have to move people around a little bit. But I'd love for you to show each other your critic and use your critic. Ooh, Brenda, I like what I see there. And what you're going to do is have a little play fight. Your critic versus the person in your breakout room. And just, like if I were talking to another critic, I would say, you're squandering your potential. What kind of critic are you? You could be a better critic. Come on, give it to me. So, so I'll put you back in your same breakout rooms, except for the people I have to move. And then let's spend just 3 minutes having a little fight. Tell the other person what your critic's name is, maybe what their healing retreat would be, and then have a little mini fight. And this is just preparation for the big brawl. So I'm going to open the rooms. And 3 minutes. So we'll be back at 6:45. All right, welcome back. Nima, can you mute? Okay, great. So how was that hard to have your critics criticize each other, or were you good at it? How'd it go? It's hard, isn't it? Nobody wants to be the critic, even though we could do it to ourselves so easily, right? Who was able to be critical against another critic here? I think this is an extra nice group. Angelisa, a little bit?
I think I did. I criticized my opponents there.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah, it could be fun. It's good if it's fun. We want to, that's why it's nice to rename your screen. So we kind of disidentify with the critic and it's.
Oh, I didn't name my critic yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think Arthur came into mind. So his name is Arthur.
Arthur, perfect.
And I don't even know an Arthur. I don't think I've ever met an Arthur.
That's funny. So
That's even more interesting.
Our fuzzy mouth. So I'm going to rename mine. And then I am happy to fight. I'm not very good at it either, but I'm happy to fight with somebody if anybody wants to go against me. What do you think? Who's up for the task? Who's willing? I'm a terrible fighter. We can have a few of us in there. Come on.
I'll take you on.
All right. Who is that?
Timo.
Timo, great. Oh no, I know I'm going to lose to you. Okay, here we go. Okay, what's your critic's name?
Stickman, of course.
Stickman. Stickman.
Star, you're no good. You've blown so many chances. You're
Stickman.
all talk and no action.
Stickman, you are squandering your potential. You could be such a better Stickman. I know you could. I know you could.
Star, you don't matter. You aren't enough.
Well, you're not as smart as you think you are. You're not as smart as everybody else thinks you are.
Look at this. This is me hitting you with all my evil messages.
Okay.
Star, you are too old.
Oh yeah, I've got that one too. No, you're too
You
old.
don't know what you want.
You're too old. You're too old. You are too old. You're older
Look
than me.
at you. You're just a little fuzzy mouth. Ah!
Okay, let's bring somebody else in. Who else wants to try this crazy inner critic brawl? Let's see. Who's
I
got
want to do it.
great? Come on in, Brenda. Okay, let's see. Add spotlight. You're in.
All right. So crazy fuzzy mouth. No, I'm not. Am I with Timo?
Yeah, you're gonna go against
I'm gonna
Stickman.
go. I don't get to go against you. Okay, I got to go against the master.
Come on.
I lost.
Come on.
I think I lost.
Who am I fighting here? Tell me who I'm
You
fighting.
didn't do it right, Timo.
But what is your name? What is your name? Oh, Critic.
Arthur.
Arthur. Arthur.
Let's see Arthur. Can we see him?
Arthur. He's brutal. I don't know how to make him more.
Wow, cool. He looks cool. Look at those long arms.
He's got super long arms. They point many fingers at everybody. You can't really tell. And then he's got a funky tail and a kind of a
Wow.
cute little face, but
Cool.
a mad face. All right, you're too sensitive and you're wrong. No.
Arthur, what kind of a name is that anyway, Arthur? You're too old,
Arthur's
Arthur.
a very great name, very strong. King Arthur. That's who I'm named after. I'm always
You know what,
right.
Arthur? You know what, Arthur? You don't know what you want. You're
Oh, that's because you're not good enough to know what I want.
And you know what? You're not good enough either.
Wait, I
You
couldn't
don't
hear that.
matter, Arthur.
Please repeat. My ears didn't work.
What'd you say, Stickman?
You don't matter. You are not enough.
No, you're not enough. You're not good enough.
You know what, Arthur? Arthur, you've had so many great chances and you've blown them. You've let them slip through your hands. You've sabotaged yourself.
That's not true. You did it wrong. You're just too loud.
You know what, Arthur? You are all talk and no action.
All right, let's bring somebody.
You're wrong.
Who else wants to come in? I'm just breaking in right here. Who else wants to come in? Who wants to try? Anybody
I'm
want to
ready
get
for you.
Arthur and
Come on,
Stickman?
come on, I'm ready for you.
I got it. We
I'm ready
got
for
it.
you.
Roar. Here we are.
I'm just getting warmed up here.
Come on. Nameless Nemesis, you want to come in, Angelisa? Nameless Nemesis? I think you said before you wanted to come in. Okay.
I didn't say that, but I will.
Oh, I thought you did.
Okay.
Okay.
First off, you are just hot air blowing all the time, Mr. Stickman. And Arthur, what kind of a defense was that? You said absolutely nothing to Stickman when he attacked you. You got to come back with something faster.
Ooh.
Yes, my
Nameless
name's Nameless Nemesis, and I know a whole lot about a whole lot, so you better listen to me.
Yeah, but you don't know enough. You're never gonna know
You
enough.
have no idea what I know. You have no idea what I know. Just
I know everything. What do you mean I don't know? Of course I know. I'm perfect.
Hey, nameless nemesis. Hey, nameless nemesis.
Yeah.
You don't matter.
oh, you don't
I
matter even
agree.
more. See, I can roar too, but I don't believe you. You don't matter. It doesn't matter that you think I don't matter. Ha 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 ha.
Okay, let's everybody unmute for a second and everybody just yell the thing that your critic says. Just go ahead and just jump in. Everybody gets to say their thing. Ah!
Not enough.
You're not good enough.
Not
Good
enough.
Good enough. You're not doing anything.
Better.
Anything right.
You must have done something wrong.
Common sense.
You did something
Good
wrong.
enough.
Too sensitive.
I
What's wrong
can't
with
believe
you?
you
Right.
do this again.
Oh my God, that was great. Okay. Everybody give yourselves a hand. That was really cool. That was cool. Rewatch the video if not, if only for that. That was really
My
cool.
God, how did you rope me into that, Amy?
Well, actually, Nameless Nemesis, I thought that you might have been the winner. You came in pretty strong there. I hate to say it, you know, but at our last meeting, there was a clear winner. This one, everybody's a little bit nice. I think we have kind of a small group and it's hard to
Who
really
you calling nice?
All right. Well, I've got to wrap this part up because I only have 5 minutes left. But thank you all for participating. I hope that that felt good. I hope it feels good to give your critic a voice. I liked seeing some of them, and if everybody could just hold theirs up for a minute, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind taking could I take a screenshot of these guys? I feel like they all go away and I don't get them. Oh my gosh. Ooh, there's some really interesting ones here. Oh my gosh. Does anybody mind if I take a screenshot?
Can't seem to get it in focus.
Well,
Here we go.
Arthur, if you blur your background, it won't be.
Yeah. It's hard.
Unblur my background.
Or
Okay.
If you can unblur it, it'll
There
show.
we
There
go.
you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Ooh, I'm gonna take a screenshot. Okay, cool. I really like seeing these and I'd love to know more about each of them. They're really different and I wish we had time to just really hear everybody's.
Amy, you didn't include Sar Fuzzy Mouth in
Oh. I can't. Okay. I've seen Bizarre Fuzzy Mouth. The thing is that these classes come and go, and then I don't realize I didn't get to see it. I didn't get to see what people made. So now that I have that screenshot, I can at least look back through them and see them. And I would love for you to send me just a picture of your critic with the little thing that it says. If you're open to doing that, I'll put my email in the chat. So keep your critic nearby. I know it's ridiculous. I know it seems ridiculous. I know it seems totally ridiculous, but it can really help. It can really help to start to tease that out and say, that voice is not me. That is not me. I am some other lesser known part that tends to get criticized. And when we start identifying with the part that tends to get criticized, and we make a little spaciousness, I mean, getting the critic out is not just a little spaciousness. We have a lot of room to play with once that critic is out. We can breathe, we can think, we can be at peace, we can seek pleasure. So I have one last little screen somewhere here to share with myself. I just want to tell you really briefly with these last 2 minutes about Pleasure Boot Camp. So I teach a 1-month intensive and it integrates all the things that I do and love to do, which are teaching people about self-love, about embodiment, about pleasure-based movement, about exploring the diverse parts of ourselves and welcoming and embracing all parts. That's very process work. And other things too that I'm not thinking of in the moment. But anyway, Pleasure Bootcamp is a daily, I have daily contact with people through the month. And it's really an immersion into pleasure. And it's really edgy to be in pleasure. It's really edgy to choose pleasure. It's really edgy to give that to ourselves when we're living in the world. Bye, Shia. Mwah. When we're living in a world that's kind of ruled by the inner critic and self-criticism. So I love to play with this with people. I love to work on just lots of little detailed ways and little hacks of how to choose. The first thing that we work on is just choosing pleasure, just retraining ourselves to remember to seek pleasure. And the question that I ask everybody at the first class and at the beginning of every class is, on a moment-to-moment basis, on a scale of 1 to 10, how often are you consciously choosing pleasure? Most people are down about one or two, right? It's not usually at the top of our mental list. And so our intention through the boot camp is to raise that number and just to choose pleasure more often. And it's pretty amazing what happens when we do. The feedback that I got from the first Pleasure Boot Camp was 100% people said that they would recommend Pleasure Boot Camp. And I'm totally 100% money back guarantee with Pleasure Boot Camp. I just feel like it's medicine for the world. And I just want to share the gift. I just really want people to be free of the inner critic and have richer, more satisfying lives. There's so much more we could get out of life. And Pleasure Boot Camp is about not adding anything really other than reading my one email every day, not adding anything to your life, but just doing it all with a different twist. Just remembering to seek pleasure in everything we do. So right now, I'm going to seek pleasure, and I can either do that through looking for my discomfort or looking for where I'm already in pleasure. I just see that it's 7:01, so I'm sorry. If you need to go, you need to go. But I just want to do a quick little demo here. So the place that my attention goes when I decide to seek pleasure is my elbows are resting on my knees, on my thighs, and there's just a nice pressure there. And so I'm just going to bring my attention there, bring my awareness there, and just be present to the pressure, the contact between my elbows and my thighs. It's so subtle, it's so ephemeral, but it's so important. It's so sweet, and it's a thing that I can just do with choice. Just by saying I'm going to choose pleasure in this moment, I just made my life a little bit better just by doing that. And I can do that all day long. I can just constantly remind myself to choose to seek pleasure. So yeah, in Pleasure Boot Camp, we work first on this spaciousness of choice and creating more space in the body and using breath to connect to pleasure. And then we work on the body and changing our relationship with our body. And then food and changing our relationship to food. And then movement and emotions and changing our relationship to movement and emotions. And then creativity and spirit and freedom and play. And so I have one promo code I want to share with you to get $75 off. And I'm like a promo code, I'll just call myself a promo code slut. And and that means if you want a different promo code, like you're like, well, I would do it for $150, then I would give you a promo code for that, because I care most about just having people at Pleasure Boot Camp, and I care least about how much money I make. So there's my promo code to get $75 off. And it starts a week from today on May 1st. And if you want more information, you can stay as people leave right now, or you can message me. I really hope you got something out of this today. Lisa, great. I'm glad you got something out of it. And I'll be offering this again. It's a little different every time. And I'll also be offering a part 2 where we go deeper into the dialogue with the inner critic. So that'll be coming up sometime this summer, I think. I'll do that. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and for bringing yourself and bringing your critics and making your critics and asking me questions and really kind of screwed up faces when I wasn't making any sense. I know it's hard stuff, but we're all in it together. And I think it doesn't have to be so hard. So. Okay, sending so much love. I'll stay on, but you're free to go. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to stay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to have you. Great to have you, Andrew. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. This was great. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
Oh,
Thank you.
cool. Thanks, Sharon. Great. Glad to hear it's helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Okay.
That critic around. Yeah, send it on the retreat.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye. Mwah.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Amy.
Amy. That
Yeah,
was
thank
I
you,
love
fun.
Amy.
I love the parts
Aw.
you had to teach, and I thought
I-
the fun was wonderful as well. The
Aw.
fun.
Yeah, I like the brawl. That one
Good
worked
for the
really well.
soul.
Huh?
Just good for the soul, the fun.
Yes. Good, good.
Is anybody sticking around to brawl some more?
You were great.
Stickman's really into this.
I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you.
It's great. Hi. Hi. It's Ilana, right? Is that, do you pronounce your name Ilana? Is that right?
Yes. Hi.
Although-
I was just about to go, but I'll sure I'm actually in the boot camp, so I'll get to talk to you later.
I know. Yeah, it's really great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes. Thanks. Bye.
Sure. Bye. Timo, that was awesome.